I figured I better make a postscript to the video that I recorded earlier today. Every once in a while, you'll hear somebody say that the PRV engine cannot handle more than a 0.024 inch plug gap, and the voltages that go along with that, which is nonsense. There's no engine out there that cannot have ignition modifications made to it. Don't try saying that to a hot rodder who makes changes to his Chevy 350 or his Ford 351 Windsor, or any of the engines that people are making all kinds of changes to all the time, including ignition. But even more so than that, that comment is disproven by the PRV itself, because the PRV engine architecture got a minimal redesign in 1988. They replaced the odd-fire crankshaft with a split journal crankshaft that they could retime the cylinder banks and go to even fire between the two cylinder banks. And they increased the bore slightly. It went from 2.85 liters to 3.0 liters. And then they put high compression pistons in all the engines. The North American engines got 9.5 to 1 compression pistons, but the European versions of the 2.8, the predecessor 2.8, were already running 9.5 to 1 compression. It was only the North American and I believe Australian exports that got the low compression pistons. But anyway, when they redesigned the engine and made these minimal changes, the architecture remained the same, the engine geometry remained the same. Renault got rid of the Bosch ignition. They went to a integrated engine management system, a proprietary engine management system known as Renix. And part of the Renix system was ignition control. And so Renault increased the spark plug gap to either 0.036 or 0.038 inches. I can't remember which. One of the two. Which is 50% wider than the 0.024 inches that the exact same engine architecture and the exact same engine geometry had been running with the Bosch ignition. So bare minimum, you can increase your spark plug gap to 0.036 or 0.038 inches and make the other changes that I mentioned. You obviously would need a different ignition coil, and you need to run more voltage into that ignition coil. But if you make those two changes, you could go to 0.036 to 0.038 inches and be just like the last iteration of this particular engine. So there's nothing magical about the PRV engine that limits you to a 0.024 inch plug gap. The engine architecture and the engine geometry are perfectly happy with at least a 50% increase.